guys! Welcome to Scherzo TV. I'm your host, the friendly neighborhood music-loving frog. In today's episode, we'll be working on a 1-hour challenge. As per a few requests, I will be playing the new arrangement by Animenz of My Dearest. Now, when I got my hands on the score, it quickly became apparent to me why some of you guys were interested in seeing me do a challenge of this. That's okay. I'll just say that the challenge is also part of the fun, the challenge and the unknown, so I'm fine with that. In any case, for any of you who are new to this, I'll just make a quick note of how the 1-hour challenge itself works. Basically, I will be working on a piece that I've never practiced before, and I will be practicing it in 3 sessions of 1 minute, 10 minutes, and then 1 hour. And following each one of these sessions, I will be playing through the piece. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, we'll start with the 1-minute session. Not much to say except that we've already got some trouble brewing right out of the doors. The octave repeated, the repeated octaves are kind of annoying, especially because you want a type of directionality to them. You don't want random bings and bangs in the midst of the 3 of them. And I'm definitely not familiar with all of the contours of the left hand, and there's fingering troubles, kind of. But there's not much to do about it. There's not so much you can do in 1 minute either, so let's get started with the run through. Gee whiz. All factors considered, that went pretty much as well as it could have. But yeah, this is not, it's not amazing, that's all I'll say. To be honest, in terms of pure technical difficulties, there are actually a lot of passages that are kind of okay, but the main issue is that it's long. This thing is 10 pages. And more or less, again, there's usually at least one spot that's kind of nasty to pretty nasty on each page. So that leaves me with a lot of troubles to deal with and not so much time. And since we're working with a time-limited challenge, that means that I'll be doing some tricks and hacks where I can to make things a bit easier. And where I can't, I will hope for the best. Anyhow, even just at a glance, there are quite a couple of areas that you could do something and you could have perhaps at least 80% of the effect with something like 30% of the effort otherwise. In particular, there are quite a few areas where the left hand has these enormous leaps, and you could probably create a similar sonic effect by taking out the rest of the leaps after the first one. For example, this part. That's hard, but if you do something similar to that, as long as you get the pattern of the accents or tenutos as written correct, it should probably end up sounding pretty much okay, and you don't have to work so hard. You don't have to worry about making a huge mess in the bottom, which is always not nice. Other than that, there's also the section with all of the I think are those 30-second notes? They should be. To be honest, it should be interpreted more as a tremolando kind of effect. So that part, I don't think it's necessary, for example, to try and align all of the individual notes, because that would be a terrible, terrible mess to deal with. The main difficulty is keeping the rhythm of the melody in the right hand straight while you're still working on the little notes. And I think that can probably, the issue can be alleviated by taking out a certain amount of the fast notes in the right hand. Because to be honest, for the listener, especially if you're not following the score, there's only a certain amount of things that your ear can hold onto at once. So as long as you have the overall effect, which I'm assuming we're going for a kind of harmonic cloud sort of effect, where you're taking the pedal and you have just the mass of harmony swirling down below, and you have the central melody that's peeking out above. You don't need to catch everything. So I'll be trying to figure out some more things here and there, but there's just so much stuff to work on, to be honest. I haven't actually decided what exactly I need to figure out first, but I guess I'll start in order and I'll continue working a bit on the octave stuff at section B. Okay, so that's the start of the 10-minute practicing session. quick note because I forgot to mention this, but you can sub in glissandi for scales when you feel like it's necessary. Personally, I don't have the time to work on actually getting all of the fingering and whatnot. Well, not fingering, but like getting your fingers to work for the scale. And it's just easier to put in a glissando instead. All you have to do is make sure you get the beginning right, and then you have to stick the landing, and that's it. Obviously, this kind of thing is not applicable everywhere, especially if you have slow scales, then you just gotta do the work yourself. But since we're going at a fairly fast tempo, I think it works. At least it's gonna work better than just actually doing a scale for me. You can do whichever feels better to you. Okay, so this section has turned out to be quite a fair bit harder to get under the hands than I had expected. I think besides the trouble with maintaining the strict rhythm in the right hand while dealing with all the sextuplet stuff that goes up in the left hand, the arpeggio stuff again is something I find kind of crazy, especially because there's already so much motion in the right hand going on that hopefully your ear would be focused on that. But then there's also at least a fair bit of motion going on in the left hand simultaneously. And the part that sucks about it is that it's not something that, I don't know, maybe I'm doing the fingering wrong. I would have to check it out more. But I feel like it doesn't fit great under the hands, like that one sextuplet in the left hand. If it was something that, if it was like a quintuplet or something, it would be more acceptable for me, because then you can have one thing going on locally in one area in the left hand, and then you can focus on the motion in the right hand. But since you're kind of dealing with shifts in both hands at the same time, it makes it so much easier for something to go wrong in either one of the hands. And a quick change to the left hand would be definitely a lifesaver. I'll have to see how it ends up sounding. And I haven't even practiced, oh my gosh, I haven't even practiced the section with the jumps yet. But I'll definitely be doing some sort of cut and snip with the left hand so that I'm not dealing with so many jumps. I have so much to do in the 1 hour section. Okay, let's go for the run through. Okay, not too shabby, not too shabby. I'm feeling pretty pleased. Obviously, the arpeggios aren't going to solve themselves. There are still quite a couple of nasty things going on, particularly towards the end. The long trill for the most part is actually okay, except for the one where both the right hand and the left hand have the melody and then there's the trill going on in the middle. For some reason that one keeps on messing me up. I don't know why. It shouldn't be that hard. But other than that, pretty much as expected. Ugh. I feel like it's not that it's so individually difficult at each of the difficult parts, but there's so many parts that it kind of makes a clean run difficult. Thankfully, a lot of the stuff is effects, so to speak, which means that the accuracy of the notes themselves isn't so important as long as the effect itself is in place, which is sparkles. But that being said, I also do want to be playing as accurately to the score as I can, so that I'm not making stuff up for the arpeggios in the later sections. Especially at section K, getting the left hand rhythms correct while still maintaining the right hand stuff. I need to figure out what the notes are. That's the first step because I haven't actually practiced that part yet. And of course, there's also the long filigree scale type work at section H, which doesn't bother me so much, but I do have to figure out obviously what all of the fingerings are that I'm going to be doing for that area, especially because I don't want to have sudden kind of hits to the head or you get a bump and a lump here and there, because it does take you out of the kind of smooth gliding effect that I think the section needs. And obviously, I don't know why, I feel like my tempo fluctuates sometimes, but that's a whole nother thing. I don't know if I'm actually going over tempo in some of the later areas. Okay, that's a whole nother issue for later. Okay, we'll start the 1 hour practice session now. This type of figuration in the left hand is actually pretty easy by itself to deal with. Obviously, it would be nicer if it was in the right hand. That's another story. But the main issue is that for this kind of thing, I feel like there's a learning curve involved. So, especially because the right hand essentially messes with the left hand and also vice versa. And you get a kind of a weird intermesh situation where neither of them are doing well and neither of them are doing terribly poorly. Oh. To be honest, if I was just practicing this piece, it wouldn't be so bad, but the issue is that I'm short on time again. So I don't know if I'll actually be able to figure out everything before time runs out. We'll have to see. Again, I'm just coming here to complain one last time as a performer. The left hand here boggles me. I don't know. I feel like even just subbing in something like just please something that fits smoothly under the hand instead of making me do 2 leaps. If things don't go well, I'll be doing a bit of trickery again, but I feel like, again, it's a bit of, it's a small thing, but I feel like it does help the performer. Another valid solution that I just came up to for section G is to actually just take out the bottom of the 4th that's being played in the left hand. I feel like that solves a lot of issues because when you aim with your thumb, I feel like there's slightly less of a problem. I could be wrong, but I feel like it works as well. I'll have to see which type of solution comes out with the better sound in the end, because obviously we're all searching for a good way to get the effect we want. We don't want to sacrifice the effect. That's at least as much as possible, right? Gee whiz. It's water break time. I am actually losing it. There are so many arpeggios. Okay. All right, back from the water break. Now that I'm finally kind of looking at the ending, there's another thing I wanted to mention, which is at the very end, he ups the difficulty again and puts up a bunch of octaves in the right hand. And you can slightly alleviate the difficulty by taking out the bottom note of the octave of every second. Well, not every second, sorry, what's the way to phrase this? Of every one of the second 16th notes of the 16th note group. Since that was probably a pretty poor explanation, what I'm meaning is to do this. Instead of doing the full octave session, which would be this. Because at least you can avoid doing the downward shift, and you have essentially the first 3 which are in one solid area, one solid chunk, and then you only really have to worry about that one jump to the G above and then back to the C. And that'll save you a lot of pain, and I feel like it sounds pretty much the same, especially since this is forte going on fortissimo. So you're in kind of one big swath of sound anyways. All right, back to arpeggio jail for me. This piece is really quite the physical marathon, I'll say. Especially because it's so long. I do have to say though, some parts are pretty fun to play, and it does really achieve a pretty nice effect. If you take a listen to the original piece on YouTube or whatever, I feel like some of the parts really do capture the atmosphere very well. If only it were a bit easier to play. Oh my gosh. Yeah, section J is so nasty. It's really hard to keep the rhythm of the melody intact because there's so much going on mentally, just keeping track of the rest of the little notes and whatnot. I feel like quite a fair amount of the notes in the right hand can be removed to no significant loss of effect, I would say. I wouldn't recommend removing all of them entirely because, I mean, it does work still. I don't think it doesn't work. But if you want to preserve a little bit of the original effect, it's still better to keep it in for the harmony's sake. But I feel like you only really need like maybe the first 4 or so of the little notes in the right hand. And then everything else in the bar can go. Or alternatively, just do a little patch here and there when it doesn't actually disrupt the rhythm, or when you think it doesn't mess with your right hand, essentially. If I had more time, I would probably keep it in, but since I don't, I feel like this is a pretty decent shortcut of sorts, since it doesn't mess with the sound too much. You only really need the sound to appear once, so to speak, because the pedal takes care of the rest. You can keep the pedal down for the entirety of one harmony, essentially. Oh boy. Okay. Uh, so it's time, I suppose. There are so many things that I haven't managed to resolve them all completely, but that's kind of just the way it is. I feel like, obviously, in the end, you want it to have a good net effect. So that's what I'll be aiming for in my run through. And if some arpeggios or whatnot kind of fall apart, then whatever, that's to be expected. All right, so let's start with the final run through then. Oh my gosh, well, that is it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please do consider leaving a like and perhaps even subscribing to the channel if you're interested in maybe seeing more of what I'll release in the future. Anyhow, thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye!